terms of my academic success, mainly due to the fact that I study after school.
If there are any, fellow parents that are listening to this, you'll probably think that Jasper's like a crazy wonder kid, wonder genius that any parent will basically die for, right?
Every day I'll wake up at 4:30. A teacher can further be the person who prepares you for your future.
We're losing the physical connection with, so much social media and everyone literally just looking down on their phones. Literally, I can see some people on the streets, all of them just looking down, staring at their phones, really not having that human connection anymore.
If you made an impact on the world, you'll only be making an impact of one person. But if you educate others on impacting the world, you'll be making the impacts of however many students that you teach.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Z-Lane. Today we have Jasper Yam here, who is a high school student who's actually one of my good friends that we've been to I think the same school for how many years? For since I'll say about 6 years or so. And he's been one of the smartest people that I've ever met in terms of academics. So yeah, Jasper, introduce yourself here.
So I'm Jasper Yam. I'm currently a student studying in Canadian International School of Hong Kong. I'm a grade 10 student, so I'll be entering the IBDP, which is considered to be one of the most rigorous programs of the entire high school world, I'll say. And so far, I'm studying just the regular subjects, but for my subject choices in DP, I intend to take history, math, and music for higher level, and Chinese, English, and chemistry for my standard levels. So my hobbies include going on outdoor activities such as going hiking or going with the first Hong Kong Canadian Scout group on camps, kayaking trips, etc., other expeditions, etc. And I also do swimming regularly. I try to do 5 to 6 times a week. Sometimes I do 7. And I also participate in competitions. And finally, I have a passion for music. So I've joined a number of school ensembles, including the Symphonic Winds and Chamber Ensemble. And another project I'm working on currently, aside of my Notion page we'll talk about later, is a website called Erphorios. Erphorios is a website that geared towards outdoor skills tutorials. So it's to encourage teenagers of modern age to put down their social media and go explore their wilderness more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds really interesting, especially with so many different things that you're focusing on. It's going to be very interesting when we dive deeper into, your daily schedule and specifically how you're managing to balance, and especially with, your subject combination. I would say, many students in Hong Kong or just students in the IB, they will tend to take a, more rigorous subject selection. So for example, taking biochem HL, and also doing, something very academic heavy. So just seeing that you take music HL and really just, chasing your passion is just something that really truly also inspired myself, and I think also inspires many people to really just do something that you actually like, right? And pursue your dreams and stuff. So yeah, I guess I don't think you have talked about this, but maybe also emphasize more on, your academic success. I know you're a very humble person, so I think you've also got, scholarships for 6 years in a row, and you probably also, many leaders in, scouts and bands. So maybe also talk about more, your achievements on that side.
Well, I have to correct you on one thing here first before we get started. I did get 6 years of a scholastic award, but that wasn't a scholarship, and I did not receive any funds for that. So just to clarify. And in terms of my academic success, I would say it's mainly due to the fact that I study after school, and I like every subject equally at school, and I don't have any personal preferences. So I would say that all my OSSD grades, which are in percentage so far, are higher than 90%, which is something I'm proud of. And they're usually higher than the course median, unless the course median is really high in that specific subject, which is unusual. So in terms of my academic success reasons, this is probably because as I mentioned before, I was studying after school. I used a tool called Anki, which is a flashcard tool. I'm sure there are many other tools that people use right now, but Anki is the one that I really like. Considering that it's been used by many other medical students in universities, I thought it would be a really cool choice to use it for grade 10 so that I can memorize more knowledge. And let's move on to my leadership roles. So In Scouts, as I mentioned previously, I'm the school's first Hong Kong Canadian Scout group. I'm currently a venture security secretary, where I take notes on meetings that occur around every Saturday, but sometimes we skip some due to public holidays. And I'm also really passionate about Scouts, so I try to plan all the meetings. I try to have a say in all the meetings and outings, but sometimes I do let others take the read occasionally so that they can try to develop their own planning skills. So for band, I can be considered to be concert master for Wind Philharmonic, which is basically the equivalent for music class. And I'm also clarinet once for symphonic winds, chamber ensemble. Sometimes I take clarinet too, and I let Sean take serene. And also in big band where I'm trumpet too. So my qualifications for music include ABRSM Grade A piano and ABRSM Grade A clarinet, though I haven't developed my piano much in school, and I've been mainly focusing at more of a individual performance more than a group performance role.
Insane. It's just insane. Like just listening to so many, different achievements that you've made in like different aspects. I think, many people also inspired to be like you, especially if there are any, fellow parents that are listening to this. You'll probably think that Jasper's like a crazy wonder kid, wonder genius that any parent will basically die for, right? So like in terms of amount of time that you're putting in academics versus the amount of time you're putting for your interests, like could you like briefly like explain how much time you put to study and how much time you actually put to exploring something that you like, for example, like do your own music stuff?
Well, I'll probably say around 60 to 70% of my time is mainly focused on academics because I spend my time before and after school on revising for my notes, completing all my homework, and making sure that my tasks are up to date and my notes are up to date as well. So every day I'll wake up at 4:30. Yeah, I'm not joking, parents here. I actually wake up at 4:30, but I do sleep at 9:30 so that I get enough sleep, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I work till 6:30, where then I go to school, take some extracurricular activities, and then stay after school again from 3:30 to 6 to complete any homework that's assigned. And with the rest of the time, I devote to my extracurricular activities, such as swimming, music, scouts, etc.
Yeah. So like with this, interesting routine, like you probably heard of like so many successful people that, take the early waking up and, early sleeping routine. So do you think that have heavily contributed to, your overall academic success and your overall, well-being? Do you think that really made like a big part as to, being able to fully, energize yourself every single day and just, doing the things that you plan to do?
I would say that's a factor, but it's not the sole reason for ensuring that I can do what I always want to do. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and I feel really, really tired. And usually in those times, I would spend a long time eating breakfast or a long time just sitting around watching the news before I start doing my homework. So this is usually because I didn't have my adequate planning of what I was intending to do during that day. So something I've learned that you have to plan out on every time section of your work time that you have. You have to plan it with you have to plan which task that you want to complete, and you have to estimate how long the task will take so that you can have an accurate estimation of when you can start the next task. Otherwise, you start feeling like there's too many tasks to overcome and each task is more difficult than the last, and then that pushes you towards procrastination on social media and other distractions that you probably will regret later on when you're finished with your work or finished with your work time but haven't finished with your work.
Yeah, this topic of procrastination, I think we should dive deeper into because it's very interesting, right? Like, I think the key is just to, being able to, I guess, doing something called eat the frog first. So being able to, finish all of the harder tasks before doing those instant gratification moments. So, for example, many people can control their desires to, playing video games or to just eating junk food because they don't really see the impact of this down the line. So what are your specific strategies on like planning all of your goals and planning what you're exactly going to do in this exact moment? Are you doing it like every single day at night, or are you doing like once a week, once a month review? Like how's your like overall system to your routines?
I actually just plan before every work session on what I'm going to do. So I have a task list that I've created in Notion that I use to track down all the tasks I have to complete, as well as any other hobbies or interests that I like to pursue if I have any more free time. So I use a system called the Pomodoro timer. You might have heard of it.
Mhm.
So using the Pomodoro time method basically means that you work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break, and you repeat this routine for 4 times and then take a longer break of 15 to 20 minutes before starting the routine again. So I found this to be a really, really useful tool for scheduling all my tasks, as there'll be a time limit for every single task, and I try to finish each task within 1 Pomodoro or 2 Pomodoro. If it goes to 3 Pomodoro, I actually starts getting annoying or bored, and then I'll lose the motivation to work on it. So I try to minimize the amount of time that I take to finish one task. Sometimes if a task is really I break it down to smaller tasks. So for example, Orforios was my personal project for grade 10. So inside Orforios there are multiple skills and multiple levels. So I broke it down into those respective levels and skills, and then I broke it further down to my tutorials, where I'll focus on completing 1 to 2 tutorial per day. So each tutorial will take around 2 Pomodoro sessions. So I'll be able to finish them on time and still make sure that I have an adequate product to project to my class without having lack of quality or lack of effort put into the task.
Hmm. Yeah, that's for sure sounding very interesting, because I personally sometimes find myself, when I do a lot of work in a certain amount of time, like I personally feel, burned out. And I guess, having this specific tactic, using this timer tactic, you can for sure like schedule breaks in between, even though sometimes I will personally feel like I'm wasting my time going on the break, if you get what I mean. I don't know if you also feel this, but like you can also feel like if you don't take the break, then you could do more work. But it actually works the reverse, right? Because if you don't
Yeah.
take the break, then, you know, your work will be less productive, your mind won't be more focused. So yeah, just having this right balance, I think, is very important. So in terms of your entire timeline and timetable, like has your study strategies always been like this, or have you like explored like different strategies before, or like as you've grown up from the middle years program to the high school, has things changed?
I would say they've changed a lot, considering that in grade 7 and grade 8, the academic stress that was put upon students were less severe. So I did not feel the urge to study. And because there wasn't a final exam, so I didn't use any flashcard tools or complete any review packets that you might see commonly when you enter the grade 9 and grade 10 phase of your life. So when I entered grade 9, I started using a tool called Asana. So Asana is a project management tool it's actually for teams to organize their own tasks and make sure that their their progress is up to date. But I tried to use it for my individual work. But then I found that Asana was a little too complicated for me, so I gave up with Asana and moved on to Notion. So one thing that people should always make sure is that what they're doing is not too complicated or too out of their range to do. Otherwise, they'll always feel like they're not doing enough, or simply that their ability is not enough, and they'll lose their self-esteem, which is really important when you're working. You also mentioned that when you're taking breaks, it feels like you're wasting your time. However, when I take breaks, I usually take productive breaks, which includes walking and stretching. And usually I find that after taking the break, my head hurts less, as you might have felt after doing like a 3-hour stretch and you're really tired. And I'm more productive, more ready, and more awake to get back to work, instead of nearly drifting up when I'm typing some stuff that turns out to make no sense after I review it the day afterwards.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like in terms of what I meant, obviously taking a break, but like we're not gonna make this a debate session. Okay, that's for another time. But like I don't know, I guess just a personal case where I just feel like I get so many things achieved and feel like I want to maximize the time that I used. But yeah, just moving on. Like let's just say, for example, if there's like a grade 6 to 8 student here listening to our podcast, and they just want to get as many tips as possible to be able to get probably a higher academic grade, either because they personally just want to, or they're just sick of having their parents scream at them for getting such a low grade. But they also want to spend, I don't know, like just say 2-3 hours every single day playing video games with their friends, just being able to relax, as that's something that they really value and something they look forward to every single day. What would you say is like a pretty solid routine and something that can probably spark academic success in this term?
I'll probably say the most important thing is to take good notes and listen in class so you can maximize the time that you get outside on exploring your interest and playing with your friends. So there's also the forgetting curve, which I'm sure if you have Miss Lim as a science teacher, you will probably have heard about. So the forgetting curve is basically saying that after class or after class or after one day of school, you remember the content that you learned in class, but then after a week, you start forgetting more and more and more until you forget around 80% of what you've already learned. So so to fix this problem, you can just allocate around 30 minutes to 1 hour to review all the content that you learned during that day, and schedule a weekly content review day where you can just review all the knowledge that you've learned during that specific week so that you can reinforce the knowledge in your head, and make sure that you spend less time on revision when you're approaching the final exams. And also, I highly encourage you to explore your interests and go with your friends. However, this requires good time management, so you need to create a schedule where you can make sure you have adequate time for completing your homework so that you don't get yelled at by parents, while still having time to maintain your physical and mental well-being by exploring your interests and playing with your friends. I'll say for exploring your interests, around an hour per day or an hour per day or maybe 3 hours per week if you're really short on time would be enough. It depends on how you want to allocate your time, and it depends on if you have any extracurricular activities or any classes that are in the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in terms of the forgetting curve, like I think a really useful tactic that I personally found um works really well is with any knowledge that you learned, like there's like a metric where you basically read it once, and then you write it once, and then you teach it. If you read it, then you get this enhanced memory in your brain. But if you teach it, then that'll be even better, because you're basically repeating the knowledge, and you really can't just cheat your way, if you get what I mean. So let's just say, for example, if I'm learning about some kind of chemistry term, if I really want to get it deep into my brain, then I'll probably find someone to be able to teach it to. So this might include probably a family member or a friend or just an expert, so then they can just make sure that all of the knowledge that you're learning is accurate. And yeah, in terms of video games, that's a pretty big topic that I think we should go a bit into. Like I see that you probably personally also play some video games. So what are your thoughts on that? Like why, like what are your main motives of like playing video games? Is it to socialize? Is it to relax? Or what is it mainly?
I would say video games is one way. It's a way to relax and to allow me to further enhance my well-being. And on another factor, it also allows me to have a connecting factor with my other friends. So you might have noticed that during lunch times on the sixth floor cafeteria, there's usually a group of people that hang out in the middle. I would say near the windows in the middle part
We
of
can
the
put a photo.
cafeteria.
Let's
What?
put a photo here. Let's put a
Yeah.
photo here.
Yep, we'll put a photo there, definitely. So these people are usually me with my friends Isaac and Odin, along with maybe some other people such as Max and Jason. And they're not as academically skilled as me, but then we use the factor of video games to connect ourselves to each other, because through video games we can actually socialize, talk about strategies on maybe winning the game or specific combinations that we can use. And this is a really good chance for us to boost our collaboration skills as well as our socials and communication skills, which I feel I'm slightly lacking in. And this also allows you to bond and make more friends, because you can connect with anyone as long as you have a connecting factor between you. But sometimes you just don't see it, and by exploring your interests, which can include video games, you can make more friends and be able to build a web of connections, which would be useful in your later life when you're calling for help or when you just simply want to talk to a friend in general.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very interesting, aspect that I think many people misses, including myself, because I personally don't really play any video games. Like I stopped playing it because I feel like it's just not good. Like I guess it really depends on how you're going to use it and like at what stage of your life you are in, because you could probably see like many adults, they probably don't play video games because the thing is immature. But to a certain extent, right, like it depends on how you use it, like how often you use it, like if you're addicted or not, and like your true goals in your life. So we've already had like such a solid conversation. So I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but like what would you say is your life goal, like your life purpose? Like why do you think you are alive, and like what's your overall goal? Like what do you want to contribute to the world, if you go, I mean?
Well, in terms of my contribution, I actually thought about this a lot when I was entering grade 9 and grade 10, especially when I was planning a goal for my personal project. Because before in the personal project assembly, I think many people were like me. They didn't really know what they want to pursue. They did have a lot of interest, but they didn't know which one they wanted to develop further. So for me, because I've been in Scouts group for how long? Around 4 years, and I've further been in Scouts since third grade in my old school. I find that Scouts is a really useful group that allows me to develop my leadership skills as well as my education skills. So this leads me into my civics interview in grade 9 when I was interviewing Commissioner Cassandra, which is the overall leader of the Scouts group in school. So she told me that if you if you made an impact on the world, you'll only be making an impact of one person. But if you educate others on impacting the world, you'll be making the impacts of however many students that you teach. So this has prompted me to continue my dream of being a teacher, as you might have heard, but some might have not. So I find that being a teacher, it doesn't just have to be teaching subjects or being the teacher that you hate or depend on your grade at school. A teacher can further be the person who prepares you for your future and who endows you with important skills such as collaboration, fighting procrastination, or simply ensuring that your social and mental well-being are fine. So I intend on going on to, after graduating from university, I intend to go study Bachelor's of Education and continue my studies until I achieve a PhD. And then I'll work on a curriculum on a school that will prepare students with it'll be similar to a boarding school with 24-hour education. So it won't be just teaching students about school subjects as you might see in our school rights now, but it'll also be preparing students for extracurricular activities such as music, socializing, or simply just going outdoors. So I believe that students, through these interactions and through these learnings, they'll be more prepared for their future lives and have a higher awareness of the community services and how they can contribute, and thus I'll be able to contribute to society.
Hey guys, just a quick second before we get back into the pod. If you guys didn't know, there is a Valley Doc link in the description, which is prepared by myself and the guest, which will contain all of the resources and tips mentioned in the podcast. It's 100% free. We have spent hours on this, so we would appreciate if you could just check it out. All right, guys, back to the pod. Yeah, I think that sounds really like interesting and like motivating as well. And I've also personally thought about my own goals, and I think the beauty of life and just being able to chat with one another and connect is that I think we all have a really unique story, and we also have a really unique journey. And one of our main purpose is to really, number one, chase our passion, and number two, just being able to teach people and guide people who really want to follow your footsteps, if you get what I mean. So let's just say, for example, you probably have someone that you look up to, right? That Scouts leader, right? And just being able to, I guess, like do something that you actually enjoy, and then like have your own story, and then like achieve something in the end, and then teaching it back to a younger generation. I think that's going to be the most beautiful gift that anyone can achieve, and any one of you guys can all do, especially when you guys are in a young age and you really have so much freedom to explore what you want. And personally, I don't really still know specifically what I'm that interested in, though I know I'm not really good at these things, not really good at that things. But I think that's the beauty with school, is that you get into a community full of people with diverse backgrounds, with different interests, so that in the future you can stay connected and you can network with each other and really build something that is really truly inspiring and really will help the next generation of young people. So in terms of the outdoor activity, the website that you've been building, referring back to the beginning, could you please expand on that, because that sounds really interesting? The what was it called again? Erfrios?
Euphorios.
Yeah, Erforios.
Euphorios.
I'll put the link in the description. Yeah.
Or the link in the description, that works.
Mhm.
So Euphorios is basically a website that I created that is geared on outdoor skills tutorials. It's a new way of education as I find it. Since currently the internet is so popular right now, I thought I'll use this trend to encourage young people to go onto the internet, find this website, and find the amazing world around them so that they can explore more about this world and put down all their mobile phones and social media that's causing them so much anxiety and depression, as seen by studies that we've seen at school and on news articles. So for Euphorios, there's 6 skills that I've narrowed down outdoor activities to. So there's hiking, there's camping, there's kayaking, water sports. There's also first aid, nodding, and climbing. So for each one, I've split it up into units similar to like school, and inside these units there'll be individual tutorials where you can learn how to perform specific tasks or specific skills so that you can explore these outdoor activities to the fullest extent. And usually sometimes there might be a video accompanying it. So however, WordPress doesn't allow me to put videos on. WordPress is a website that I basically use to create my site. So I've also created a YouTube channel to put the websites on, which is also called Euforio. So you might be able to find it when you're on YouTube, but so far I've not been successful with it so far. There's still some technical issues I've been tinkering with. So for this website, I highly encourage you to, after reading these tutorials, to go out into the wild and try to experiment on these skills on your own, because I highly encourage students to try to walk outside and explore the world so that they can gain a deeper understanding of the world and be able to, you know, develop their mental and physical well-being and their connections to nature.
Hmm. Yeah, I've just been thinking about this entire your project that you're working on, and I think it's really interesting because how we're in like a tech heavy era where like AI is everything that everyone talks about on YouTube. 99% is people telling you that you can make a quick buck here and easily reach 10K, 100K a month with these tactics, and school is basically useless forever or whatever. Okay, I might get like, someone might clip me on that, but don't clip me on that. But yeah, like it's just funny to like just think about like in the beginning, like how we have existed, right? Like it's all about nature. Like in the world where there's no internet, how would things actually be? Like things will be like more peaceful, and even though we might not be like that interconnected right now online, um we're losing the physical connection with so much social media, and everyone literally just looking down on their phones. Literally, I can see some people on the streets, all of them just looking down, staring at their phones, really not having that human connection anymore. So I think you working on that project, or like anyone who really inspires to do like the opposite of what everyone is doing, I think that is a really valuable thing to learn, and just doing something that you actually like, right? So
Yep.
with AI and technology, like it's a very big topic, but do you like, what are your overall thoughts on balancing using AI and also balancing like these physical connections, and how do you think like they can be like easily justified if there's like a boundary, if you know what I mean?
So in terms of artificial intelligence, I would say you can treat it like the internet. So AI, you can use it as a search tool for researching on information that you need for students. But however, if you really want to create a, like for example, if you want to write an essay and you tell AI to do it for you, then what's the purpose of writing the essay? You have to think of the teachers always have a purpose when they're assigning homework to you. And there's a reason why AI is often talked about in school, where it's banned in some countries, or simply there are so many regulations around it. So AI can be used as a search tool. I'm not denying that. You can also use it for pursuing your own interests if you would like. However, before using AI, you should always think about what you're losing and what you're gaining by using AI. So if you're actually losing out on learning and on not skills that you believe that it will be crucial for later life, I believe that you shouldn't be using AI, as you'll be having a detrimental impact on your own life. And yeah, you should try to regulate AI for yourself so that you use it responsibly. So for social media, as we talked about previously, I believe you should be trying to encourage more physical and social interactions in real life instead of using social media. So as you can see, my social media life isn't very developed. If you try to search me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, no, X, sorry, Elon Musk, and all the other social media platforms, you usually only find a mention of me and not actually me as an account. This is because I only have WhatsApp and WeChat as an account, and those are purely for communications. If I'm actually at home and I need to communicate with my friends, or when I need to communicate with a teammate for any work that needs to be done. So I prioritize physical connections, especially because usually in social media, you find that the stuff that you text to other people is often forgotten within a few days, and they're usually quite meaningless when you reflect back on your usage of them. However, when you check your screen time, which you should probably do now, pause the video if you want. Now, you may find that you have over, let's say, 5 hours on Instagram. So these 5 hours you can have used for sleep, you can have used for your physical and mental well-being, you can have used for academic work, but you put it on Instagram. So social media can actually boost your anxiety and depression. And so on one factor, you're increasing mental health problems for yourself. And another, you're wasting time when you're saying that you shouldn't be procrastinating. And at the end, when you find out that you don't have enough time, you'll be regretting why you spend so much time on social media. So this all actually comes down to time management and responsibility. And it's crucial that you explore these two skills up for yourself, as no one can tell you what's right and what's wrong. And it's up to you to decide what you believe is truly right for you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very good explanation, Jasper. And I think everyone here, who's watching is always just wondering, like, have you ever experienced, I think everyone have experienced this, but like, have you ever experienced, like a something called like a burnout, or like you just, how like you just keep getting your engine, rolling
I
every single day,
I have
like.
too much experience in that.
So like, what are like what how do you like combat those like negative thoughts and just get back on track? Like, what would you say is the best strategy?
So there was this one time in actually last year in December when I was trying to chase up on the deadline for the personal project because I was struggling with all the summatives that were given by our teachers. I was trying to finish them all to my best quality while making sure that my personal project was also completed to my best effort. And one week I suffered a burnout. I started scolding myself because I wasted so much time on doing other stuff because I was procrastinating, as many people have experienced. So after a while, I start to realize it's yelling at myself and trying to tell myself to get to work maybe wasn't the best solution, because that would leave me feeling even more negative. So I decided to take a day off to just relax, explore my interests. So I went swimming. I played the clarinet, but not on the teacher assigned songs. I just randomly played some songs that I remember from my old age, and I also played around with some video games which I actually liked. So like the ones that I played with my friends during the cafeteria, and I actually got better sleep. So instead of sleeping at 9:30 and waking up at 4:30, on that day I slept at 9 and I woke up at like 6. So after that day, I believed I actually felt more rested. I felt more productive, and I found that I was able to complete more tasks in a shorter period of time than I previously thought possible. So the tips for combating burnout is just to relax yourself and take care of your physical and mental well-being so that you can feel rested for another surge until your deadline is reached or when all of your tasks have been finished.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that strategy actually works because I personally like in I guess like the past few weeks, I've also experienced like a couple burnouts where I feel like I really wasn't doing anything, and really just being able to clear your mind and just take a day off, I think you could really get back to the original schedule and not fall into this negative loop, because the last thing that you want to do is every single day you just feel bad and you just continue doing like horrible actions, and you just continue doing this for a long period of time, and you realize that you waste your entire life and you decide to jump off a building. Worst case, jump off a
Worst
building.
case.
hmm hmm So, DP, when I say those two words, what comes up in your mind?
Obviously, diploma program, right?
Diploma program. If no one knows what diploma program is, if you're watching from the in the UK or the US or whatever, it's just basically the last 2 years of high school. So probably like when you're doing the APs or whatever exams before you go into university. So universities cares the most on the grades for this. So yeah, what do you think? Like what when I say DP, like what comes up in your head? Like is it mostly positive or like negative?
I would say positive. You know how we always listen to grade 11s and seniors saying that, oh, great. Once you enter the TP, you're going to die. You're going to be so stressed. It's going to be so challenging that it makes you want to suicide. Actually, I think even if it might be that, it'll be interesting. So you know how the venture motto is to challenge yourself, right? So basically, I believe that with harder challenges, we grow more, and then we can actually develop more of our skills that will be essential in our later life. So if the DP program is actually as hard as it seems, it will just give us more room for improvement and more room for trial and error, so that we can actually grow on our own, grow out of our comfort zones, and build our new zones where we'll be even more developed and even more capable than other people our own age, and thus we have a higher ability to influence our own lives and to perfect our own lives in such a way that we see fit.
Mhm. So in terms of like the most like let's just say like your fears, like what are your most common fears right now with DP, if there are any like in your head?
Oh, there are many. So there's always the risk of failure, as I'm sure many of you have experienced. So you might be apprehensive about the future, and you might say, "Oh, I'm definitely not up to this, and I'm definitely not going to be able to complete this." I don't know how many times I thought of that, but every time I'll think of that, I'll just say to myself, "It hasn't started yet, and maybe I haven't started yet, and you still have a chance on experimentation. And even if you fail, what's the worst that can happen? At most I'm going to get, let's say, kicked out of school even if I made a really great mistake, but that doesn't mean my life is over. I can still continue to exploring my life on being a teacher by reapplying to another school, or simply just doing more community service and being a part of charity. You know, there are many different paths to life, and it doesn't have to be the one path that you thought of. And as people said, always have a plan B and plan C and plan D and etc. available, so that you can always be prepared for anything that goes wrong.
And yeah, and you mentioned like some really good points there, especially with focusing more on the present, because I feel like many successful people, or like many people like who will be successful like us, and like people who are watching this podcast, obviously you've obviously been thinking about the future, right? Or else what's the main reason why you'll be pressing into this video in the first place? Probably to get insights, to be more aware of things that will happen in the future. And I guess the main priority for us is that it's very also important to stick to the present, because the future is the future, and if you don't really be conscious of the present, then you're always going to be living towards the future, right? So that's going to be a problem there. And also talking about the worst case scenario, like being able to know what's the worst case that can happen, and getting this fear out and just writing it down when it comes up to your head. And journaling is a very effective strategy. So I don't know, do you also do journaling?
Well, I actually used to do journaling until I found that it was actually more time consuming than it needed to be, because I'll spend around an hour just at home thinking of what I did finish that day. So I do still do journaling, but I changed it to a monthly interval. So I will send an email to myself every month, reminding me of what I've accomplished and what I still need to work on and what I'm grateful for. So I found that to be a really good way on reflecting on myself and my accomplishments over the months. Actually, I started that in last year in January, so it's only been 17 emails that I've received so far.
Hmm.
But I believe I'll continue on this habit throughout my life so that I can continue to reflect on my own progress and remind myself that I can do this and I'm not a complete failure.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have been journaling. I stopped journaling for like a period of time for like the past 2 weeks because I feel like it's like you get to a point where you did it 100 days in a row, right? And then you kind of
Yeah,
feel like it's kind of useless, it's kind of repetitive, takes
that's
up a
true.
whole lot of time. But I come to realize that I guess journaling really, like when I look back at my journals, I can see like how much you've grown, right? And I believe in every single period, like you should be having quarterly reviews of your life, and if you don't see any growth in that 4 months or in that 3 months, then I feel like you're doing something wrong, right? And something needs to really be changed on that
Right.
aspect. So in terms of valuable traits, like what do you what if I was to ask you, Jasper, you have to find like a partner to work with you, or like I know I know we're all still pretty young, but let's just say, for example, you come out, you have to come out tomorrow, you have to start a company. What do you think is going to be like a valuable trait in someone which will help you, hire them or partner with them to work with you?
So in terms of the people that I would like to hire to my company, if I do have a company in the future, I first want to find someone that's really passionate about the job that they want to be in the company and that they have to be passionate about our company goals. So in each company, I'm sure that there's something that they want to achieve or they wouldn't have started the company in the first place. So the person that I'll hire have to have the same passion that they actually want in the company. Otherwise, they won't have the motivation to work for it. And they'll also have to be skilled and have good collaboration skills so that they can communicate to other team members and communicate to me on what they have achieved and their progress. So on the other skills that we've mentioned previously, such as time management, fighting procrastination, they should have a basic awareness of that, but it's fine if they don't because we can offer training sessions. So the most important ones are still communication and collaboration.
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. It's all about, it really, any successful company is really about the team members, right? If they have a really good team, then, they have really good ideas. And then eventually in the future, they'll have a higher chance of blowing up or like IPO. So in terms of your career, I don't think I've asked this yet, but where do you, I know I've talked to you about this, beforehand. So what are you planning to do in the future? Like, are you planning to, scale this entire website, or, what's your overall plan?
I believe I mentioned this previously in the podcast, but I'll just reiterate it again. So I was trying to become a teacher and create a school, a boarding school, I should say, that will educate students not just about curriculum subjects, but also on extracurricular activities and making sure that they have the adequate soft skills, as you would call it, for their future life. I believe I talked about it in more detail previously.
So, I mean, in terms of like, are you going to go full time on that? Like, will that be like your main profession? If you know what I mean? Like, will you just go to
Uh,
finish the university degree and then you go out and then just create this entire teaching thing?
well, no. Before that, I'll probably need some experience as a teacher, and I'll also need to pursue my other extracurricular interests so that I can impart them on my own students. So I intend to maybe study, become a teacher for around 10, 20 years, going around, traveling around the world, going to different schools, exploring their different cultures, lifestyles, and making sure that I actually know what's best for students before I actually start creating a curriculum because I don't want to base my base the future curriculum based on my own knowledge and my own opinions, as that would be unwise and may lead to bias and prejudice for my that my students will pick up in my later life. So aside of my career, I also intend to continue my own interests. One of my high interests is hiking. I've hiked up quite a lot of peaks in Hong Kong, as that's where I'm living now, and I intend to go on to try to conquer other peaks in the future. Maybe I'll try Mount Everest. Who knows?
hmm if you ever try Mount Everest, I also have like a similar thing. Like, I want to also climb Hollow Mountain. So remember to also invite me.
I'll make
Loop
sure I
me in
contact
there.
you. I'll make
Make
sure I
sure.
contact you if I do.
Yep, nice, nice, nice. So yeah, so before we end this and rewrap this, I think in the beginning we also talked about the Notion page. So do you want to
Hmm.
emphasize briefly on what crazy things you're doing every single day for the Notion page and who's it for mainly?
Oh, wait, you meant the notes, the one that I made the class notes for the host?
Yes.
Well, link in the description. So this is basically a notes database. So I accumulated all the notes that I've taken over the year on my class subjects with further and extensive research done on those topics. So for example, on the Great Depression, we only learned about a few policies that Franklin Delano Roosevelt did for the Great Depression. However, I further expanded on it, put a lot of detail, including the court packing controversy and the Roosevelt recession. And this is what I've been doing for the past year on creating notes, and I've also organized it into toggle lists so that it'll be easier for navigation. So if you want to learn more about the subject that we do at CDNIS at grade 10s, and if you're a grade 10 student or future grade 10 student wanting to revise, you can feel free to use these notes to take a look. Um, some of the subjects that you take might not be completely accurate to the subjects that I take, because you may take design, you may take arts, and I take music, so that won't work. And you might take French and I take Chinese, but you'll find that the overall content actually works quite well, because the main content heavy stuff are history, math, and science, in my opinion. So you can use those notes to revise well for your test, and hopefully you can get a good grade so that you can not get yelled at by your parents.
hmm And yeah, like a very interesting point is, I think I previously asked you, a couple of times, or like I don't know if anyone else asked you, but why aren't you like, selling this? Maybe briefly explain that as well.
Why aren't I selling this? Well, first of all, I've actually been selling this. It's just that I don't have much social media, so I've just been talking about it to my friends, and they've asked me for the link, so I sent it to them. So, and that's all I've been doing so far. I know I should have probably marketed it around the grade, but previously I thought that my notes weren't organized. I only organized it during the spring break, so for this podcast, I was hoping to market it to the rest of the school and
Rest of the world, bro.
maybe rest of the world if they need it. But so far to the rest of the school first. We'll focus on school and then we'll focus on work.
hmm So you're planning to always keep this free, right? Like, providing as much value as possible,
Well,
or
I can't really price Notion considering that it's only a
Mhm.
website, and I don't intend to make this price considering there are so many price class materials out there already. I believe that there should be at least one free that's good, that's of good quality, so that students can actually revise without having to worry about, oh, my parents will have to pay for me, or being disadvantaged, so that they can actually view the material when others can.
hmm Yeah, and it's all about providing value, right? In anything you want to help others, and yeah, just help as many people as we can. I guess that's the main purpose of this podcast as well. So just to wrap up, with many podcasts that I watch, you probably have noticed that after 2 hours, I think this is not, I think this is a bit less than an hour, but after pretty long podcast, you probably, your mind is like wandering around, what should I do first, what should I do that. So I feel like in order to help as many people as we can and provide as much value, me and Jasper will be creating a doc, which we'll be doing after the entire podcast later on, and we'll link it in the description. And this will provide all of the different tips and strategies and the softwares that we have mentioned in the overall entire podcast. And it's just a little gift from us to you guys for staying till the end, if you guys are still watching. And I hope you guys will find that useful. And Jasper, if someone wants to reach out to you, how will they do that if you don't have social media?
Oh, they can just contact me through my email. So
Email.
my school email will be jasperyam2026 at cdns.edu.hk. It's also in the description. And if you want to contact me personally on some personal issues that you have, and it's after 2026 because I'll be graduated by then and my school email won't work, you can always contact me on my personal email, which is yamjasper96@gmail.com. Also in the description. Please don't spam me because I will block you.
Don't spam him, guys, as you said so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Z Lane. Feel free to share this with your friends, as you know we're trying to provide as much value as possible, and in the future we're also going to be having different types of guests. And the main reason why this is called Z Lane, which I've told Jasper before to call, is because this will be called the Gen Z fast lane, so as to provide as much value to Gen Z people as possible, and really explore different bright minds such as Jasper here, who have crazy ambition as a Gen Zer. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, peace out. Jasper, peace out. Come on. Peace out.